watching Project Cardboard. On with the video. Hello everyone, this is just a little update on the Porsche I've been building. I'm pretty happy with the results. The details are coming out pretty pleasing actually. But I'm not dropping it totally, but I'm gonna let it go for a while because I have another project that I'm gonna do. The Chevy Impala, I'm gonna redo it with a new chassis and new stuff, and that's what I think I want to do right now. I'm just not so much into this build right now. I love the build, I love the car, I love the idea, but I'm just gonna give it a little break. So I guess I'll stick it right up there and leave it there. Alright. And of course we start out with a lot of reference pictures, and then I can begin to build. And the thing that I left out in the last Chevy Impala build that I did was the chassis. I made no chassis, I just basically made the body and glued some wheels inside of it. That's it. I didn't put any engine, any chassis. It really wasn't really a car. A car isn't a car without a chassis. So now I'm just made many chassis parts, and I'm just gonna glue them on top of each other until I'm gonna glue them on top of themselves until it gets to a nice thickness. Then I can make the whole chassis. Then the finished vehicle will look much more pleasing and much more realistic. So I bent them to shape. Of course, I just looked at an image. I always eyeball things. I never go off of blueprints or anything. So guys, this is the chassis for the Chevy, but the only problem with it is that it's not that sturdy. So I'm gonna put a few bands of cardboard on the sides like that, so it's like gives it some strength, not wiggle back and forth like that. Let's do that. So to fix it, what I did was I glued some spars, some thin cardboard strips to the sides to make it a little more thick. This was a little too short, so I'm going to extend it. So like I always do, I always start off with many pictures of whatever I want to build, and that is what I go off of. So I just collected a whole bunch of pictures, and this is what we're going to go off of. And then I kept on with the chassis building, and this was by far the most challenging part of it. None of this chassis build right now at this point was so hard, but it was a lot of small parts, and when the time for the springs came, that was really hard. But this wasn't too hard. I was making these shock mounts for it and some other rods. I don't know what they were for, but I just put them in because I saw it in the image. So that's what I was doing now. Then, this was the really fun part, and as you can see, the spring isn't exactly straight. That wasn't proper, and I did have a little bit of a hard time with that, but I ended up just putting a thin strip on the spring to keep it in shape, because if not, it would just be springing everywhere. And like that, I just glued it in, and it looks pretty okay. And then, of course, I'd made the springs for the rear part, and I just glued them in. Then it was time for me to make the rear axle of the vehicle, and I made that by rolling a piece of cardboard and then just making a box thing and just gluing it on top of each other. I sandwiched it on the rod, and that was basically it. Then had to attach it in. That was not easy to do. I kept fiddling with it, but I ended up getting a pretty pleasing result, and I'm going to go over and detail it later on. This is the chassis. These wheels, if you notice and you watch my past YouTube videos, then this from the old Chevy Camaro. I'm not Chevy Camaro, the Chevy Impala that I mean. But I just put them on for now, just so you could have an idea of how the whole thing looks. And this is the very sad looking chassis of the last one. And I'll put it there and fit it And you see, it's all coming together. Of course, we're gonna lower it a little, lower it down a little, but I might keep it up like that. I don't know, it just kind of looks nice. Yeah, that's it. You have to finish.
And became a best-selling automobile. Its symmetrical triple taillights were a trademark for the early generation of the Impala. The Caprice was introduced as a top-line Impala sports sedan for the 1965 model year and became a separate series.